Hi, this is Ashishar Bidekar, and welcome to my podcast, The ARB Show. I'm really happy to introduce today's guest, Mimmis. She's from the land of IKEA, ABBA, Ericsson, and more. She's currently an entrepreneur and has a marketing firm called SunMico that offers marketing consulting to technology brands. I had the privilege of working with Mimmis twice in my career, first in Navtech and later in MediaTek when I was on her team. Mimmis has over 20 years experience in international business across telecom, mobile, IoT, software, IT industries. She lives in Stockholm, Sweden. Mimmis, welcome to the show. Please do share more about your life journey so far, about SunMico, and about technology marketing in brief.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashish. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. As you mentioned, I have a long career in marketing and management in high-tech companies in the private sector, and both from large multinational companies to startups, actually, from organizations like Ericsson, Sony Ericsson, MediaTek, Capgemini, etc., Navtech, to really small startups and scale-ups. For the past 5 years, I've been running my own marketing consultancy firm, where I target tech companies that need to quickly scale and grow. So that's kind of my specialty. I guess the common denominator for all my roles, both when I was employed and also in my consultancy business, is to help scale and grow, and kind of typically some kind of transformation journeys with companies that need to happen. I have, as you probably can guess, I have a keen interest in leading edge tech, and I'm very passionate about brand building and about growth and digital transformation and things like that. So really happy to be here.
Great. Thanks again, Mimmis. As we discussed, I would like to have a format where the guest talks about the top threes, do's and don'ts on a specific topic. And given your rich expertise, maybe you might like to talk about a marketing pro's top threes and do's and don'ts for growth. And I'm sure it would be really useful for the audience. And I will later on share your presentation in the show notes as well. Over to you, Mimmis. Let's start with the do's first.
Okay. So, my first do, when I was thinking about this, my first do is doing the right things at the right time for the right audiences as well. And you would think that this maybe is something given, but I often have discussions with my clients in the tech space about not only doing things right, meaning that you optimize and really figure out how to do something perfectly, but actually selecting to do the right things to start with, and make sure you do it for the right audiences and at the right time. And the reason I'm saying this is that my experience comes a lot from kind of growing and scaling up businesses. So when you talk about growth journeys, you usually talk about 3 different stages of growth in a company, in the company's kind of transformation and growth journey. The first is usually the crawl space. This is where you need to get stuff done and put things in place in order to create the right kind of conditions in order to start generating awareness for your company's business. The second stage is the walk stage, where you start ramping up, or you start raising awareness for your company and adoption. And the third phase is really the run phase. And this might be several years into the company's business, where you're ready to scale up properly because you've already done the previous stages. So when you create a marketing plan and a strategy for a company, you need to understand where is your company currently at in this growth journey in order to successfully choose the right channels, choose the right type of content for your business, and also choose the right activities to engage in order to make sure that your audience is ready for you.
Great. That's a very, very valid point. And yeah, it's true, because many times if you do the right thing, but if the timing is wrong, it's really not going to help much, right? For example, you've not achieved product market fit, and then you kind of worry about what should be my brand logo or what should be my brand philosophy, right? So it's too premature at times. Perfect. What would be the second do in your perspective?
So the second do has to do with the audience that I mentioned. Communicating with the right audience, and also this probably might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many companies that I talk to that actually have a quite vague idea of who their audience is, or where to find them, or what type of content they need in order to be stimulated with what you're offering. So in order to do that, the first thing you need to do is to create a target audience analysis. And a lot of companies just skip this step, especially if you're immature. And obviously that's where a marketing professional can help. But typically a target audience analysis consists of first identifying who your primary and secondary audiences are, then trying to figure out what their typical characteristics, their behaviors and their needs are, and then do some sort of segmentation of these audiences. It could be customers, it could be partners. You might need to address, employees or potential employees. You have media. Might have investors that you need to target, etc.
Right.
But your primary audiences typically are your different customer segments.
Right. Excellent. That's a very valid observation, because ICP is something which has to be at the core of all whatever you do in terms of outreach. And I guess when startups, when they're just like you have a product market fit, similarly there would be some kind of a audience and message fit, if I may use the term, which also is in sync with whatever you're trying to do. And many a times your early customers might actually give you the construct of what kind of customers, right, are buying your product or service. So very, very, very valid. So you talked about the audience, etc. Are there any tools or processes for this whole customer journey? Maybe that could be your third do.
Yeah. Actually, this discussion leads me over to my third do, which is about ensuring you have the right tools and the right processes and the right type of content for the customer journey. So when we talk about that, these going through what your current situation is for your company, and also understanding where you want to take the company in terms of what kind of company do you want to be in the next 5 years? So what's the strategic direction? What's your wanted perception and the position of the company that you want to achieve? Once you know that, and you know where on the journey you are currently at, and you have made the target audience analysis, you can then be in a good position to choose the right tools for your trade. You can set up your company website in order to have the right type of content and functionality to fit the journey that you're in. You can also choose the right marketing channels, because you know where to find your audience and who your audience is. So therefore you select the right marketing channels to attract them to you. And also you can create the right type of content, because you understand your audiences and their needs in a good way. And when you create content, I'd like to point out also that you need to think about both emotional and rational aspects of building a brand and using that in your external communications. Because in a lot of discussions, especially I target the tech industry, and it's quite common that technology companies focus a lot on rational aspects in terms of, talking about all the nice technical features or the how great the technology is, but they forget to talk about what the benefits of it are, what kind of value that creates for the customer, what kind of problems they're solving. And what some of the research shows is that emotions is what triggers purchase behavior. So when you try and fill your brand or your communications with relevant messaging and content, you need to think about that emotions typically trigger buying behavior. So if you can appeal to emotions among your audience and do that first, that will attract their and retain their interest. And then you back up the willingness to buy with rational arguments to back up their decisions.
Right.
So that's something that I often talk to my clients about, which I thought might be relevant to bring up.
I think that's a very valid point, because that's true, because many times in the tech industry, we assume that, the audience is also on the same wavelength as what we are, right? Many times it's also called as the curse of knowledge, right? Wherein you feel, oh, this is so easy, it's so simple, right? This is the technical specs and this is why they should buy. But customer is looking from a different perspective. So great. So that's very succinct top threes. Moving to don'ts. What's the number one don't in your view?
Tying back to some of the do's, my first don't is don't be afraid to question status quo. Because when you're thinking about the where you're at in the growth journey, you sometimes need to, during this journey, you need to take stock of where you're at today and where you need to go in the next phase. So in order to do that, you need to challenge the ways you're working and what you're doing today. Is that still relevant for the next phase we're entering? So I often like to think about what can we stop doing in order to free up resources or time or budgets, and what should we continue doing that's already working and that's also going to be relevant for the next stage or this stage of the growth journey we're at now.
Wow.
But maybe we should do it more or better. And then the third is, what should we start doing? So if we free up space and time from what we stopped doing, we need to start doing things that we might not have been ready for before, but now that we're entering a new stage of the growth journey, we need to start doing some new things or put new things in place, etc.
Excellent.
So that's constantly challenging the status quo and trying to take a kind of a review and take stock of where we're at and where we need to go. It needs to happen not just when you start the journey, but along the way, in order to make sure you're doing the right things at the right time for the right audiences.
Right, that's true. Coming to the second don't, what should marketeers look out for?
So my second don't is don't accept silos. And the reason I'm saying this is not just purely from a leadership perspective in an organization, but that also because marketing doesn't exist in isolation. Marketing needs to support the overall business. And, when done right, marketing can be a really powerful tool and essential for the transformation and growth of the company. But in order to be that supportive factor, the marketing plan and strategy needs to tie back to the overall business strategy and the business objectives. And we also need to make sure we properly understand the products and the value proposition, the USPs, the unique selling points, and also the sales process, that we understand what type of customers that we have and how they go through the buying journey and how long that is and things like that.
Right.
So don't accept silos. I usually, as a marketeer, push myself into discussions with other cross-functional teams because it helps me understand the overall business and it helps me better understand how marketing can contribute to reaching the overall business objectives. And I think that's really key for transformation.
Right. Very true. I mean, what you say is very right. Technology marketing is a very important aspect in the whole growth journey, and it's important to ensure that you have a 360-degree review internally as well as externally, from having the right strategic levers in place. So coming to the last third don't, what's in your view the third don't for any marketeer?
Well, my third don't is don't stop marketing in tough times, because since marketing is really essential for the long-term strategy of the company, you need to look at marketing as a strategic investment in growth, in future growth, instead of looking at it short-term as a cost-saving measure in tough times. So I think this is really where more strategic insight and somebody that has a longer experience in marketing can probably help to determine the right priorities. When there are tough times and you understand that the business climate is not ideal for getting increased marketing budgets, you might need to work smarter on what you should do and why in certain periods of the company's life. And when there are tough economic times, I would say that it's even more important to do marketing and branding, because it helps you gear up, make sure that you are geared up for accelerating out of the curve or out of the downturn when the tides turn, so to speak. Otherwise, if you have been invisible during all this time, you have been forgotten.
Exactly. In fact, I would just like to draw a very important parallel. So in sales, there is always a kind of an axiom which says that be persistent in kind of following up your customer pipelines, right? Because many a times you would crack a deal only after your 8th or 10th engagement with the customer, right? Yeah. And don't kind of leave too soon. And it is analogous to that, right? Because if your audience is hearing about you maybe through digital media or through other medias, etc., and he may not have the kind of made the decision right now, but as you rightly mentioned, that's an investment. So once things are better, you would be the preferred kind of a brand to kind of take to the closure step, and it kind of would help accelerate the sales engagement as well. So very, very apt. I think thanks, Mimmis. I think overall it gives a very great perspective to marketeers, and they really benefit from your sage advice. So thank you, dear listeners. Thanks for tuning in. The presentation would be there in the show call notes, and would have Mimmis's social media link, her company details, etc., that you should definitely check. Bye for now. Talk to you soon.